Imagine if you will, imagine if you will, and I often do, dimming the lights in a West End theatre as the overture begins and the people munching their chocolates and their crisps gradually get a little quieter, and a charismatic figure appears not on a broomstick like Elphaba or on the earnest arm of Glinda, but on the sterile stage of the Commons Liaison Committee, and that man is Keir Starmer. And the number not defying gravity, though you may have thought it might be possible, but something far more cynical, dancing through dignity. And for those familiar with Wicked, Dancing Through Life is a deliciously self-indulgent anthem sung by Fiyero, a prince so committed to being carefree that he views thoughtlessness as an inconvenience. The brainless should take their place, he says. Life's more painless for the brainless. And in some tragicomic twist, Starmer now appears to have learnt that tune. He's trying to ape Tony Blair. He's doing so badly. If for a moment you indulge me, and I'd just like to talk about Wicked, because it's a show that I discovered late, and I did a panto, and the person who played my daughter in the panto is now regularly appearing as Elphaba in the West End, and she's wonderful, and she looked after my voice when I thought I was losing it. So I'm very loyal, and it's. As for the film, again, that's something I ducked out of seeing for a long time, and I've only recently looked at it. And Jonathan Bailey's Fiyero might enter Wicked with a twirl and a wink, but beneath the gleaming grin and the easy charm of Dancing Through Life lies a breadcrumb trail of foreshadowing so elegantly woven that it takes time and multiple viewings to catch. At first glance, the number Dancing Through Life is a buoyant crowd pleaser, and Bailey, with all the charisma of a Bridgerton, a duke gone rogue, bounds across the rotating shelves of the Shiz University, this sort of hamster wheel, shrugging off responsibility and urging everyone to abandon thought for feeling, duty for delight, and the lyrics, wasting time on tough choices. Ask for directions, don't spare the thought. They might seem glib, even flippant, but with hindsight, they are chillingly prophetic. And I think they have an angle for modern British, in fact, international politics, because we know where Fiyero ends up. And Elphaba's desperate spell in No Good Deed, let his bones never break, let him never die, transforms Fiyero into the Scarecrow, and the boy who danced through life becomes the man made of straw, and suddenly his lyrical claim that life is fraughtless when you're thoughtless sounds less like a motto and more like a curse. He wasn't just avoiding thought, he was foreshadowing the hollow fate that would strip him of mind, flesh, and selfhood. And even his movements hinted it. Director John Chu and the choreographer Christopher Scott designed a set and a dance which is so dynamic it verges on madness, and Jonathan Bailey is doing all this sort of balancing backwards, a literal spinning wheel of books and limbs and disorientation, and Bailey's dance includes swaying and sweeping gestures that echo Ray Bolger's iconic Scarecrow shuffle in The Wizard of Oz, and by the final pose Bailey mirrors Bolger almost precisely. It's not just choreography, it's transformation in slow motion. And what's brilliant is that this revelation doesn't come with a crash of thunder or a flick of a green light. It creeps in quietly because Fiyero isn't brainless. He's choosing to perform the part of the brainless prince. He's masking real pain, the burden of expectation, a princely performance of living in a world where animals lose the power of speech and students party in oblivion, and his rebellion is to act as though he doesn't care, while Elphaba cares too much. Together they form the show's moral axis, and it's only because of Fiyero's influence that Glinda's shallow kindness at the Ozdust Ballroom becomes something real, a true moment of empathy. So yes, Dancing Through Life is flashy, but it's also functional. It's the fulcrum on which the entire friendship between Elphaba and Glinda pivots. And so what was once a sort of skippable soundtrack number has become, in the hands of Bailey and Chu, a masterclass in dramatic irony. It's a song of seduction, certainly, and it's a song of surrender. But by the time I think we will reach the next film, it will have become a eulogy for the man Fierro was in the past, before he danced into myth and memory and into straw and spell. But it's a warning song. And in the last 48 hours, the Prime Minister has mounted a peculiar defence of his £4.8 billion in welfare cuts without recognising the warning of what he's of the foolishness of all this. He's declared that the Office of Budget Responsibility had scandalously, in his view, assumed that no one would change their behaviour in response to these reforms. That, he insisted, was a flaw, because his reforms, you see, aren't about restoring are about restoring dignity. They aren't about responding to the Office of Budget Responsibility. They're about dignity. Yes, dignity. And that's a grand old word, now pressed into the service like a tired understudy, thrust into the spotlight. And Starmer seems to believe that dignity is best attained by nudging the disabled, the ill, the jobless, many of whom already battle bureaucracy like it's Oz's wicked witch, into work or into despair, possibly both. This isn't dignity. It's theatricality without the song and dance. It's the political equivalent of being pushed on stage without knowing your lines. Poverty statistics, without being able to hum, without knowing what the merry tunes words are supposed to be. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation suggests that up to 400,000 people could be pushed into poverty, and Starmer disputes this, arguing that poverty forecasts do not price in the motivation in the motivational magic of policy. In short, trust me, I'll be fine. Like Fierro, Starmer skips blithely over complexity. Why think too hard, says Fierro. Why not just float? Well, why ask whether people with chronic illness can actually work, or whether the administrative system is fit for purpose? Why address the substance when there's a spotlight to bask in? It's a deeply ironic fact that Starmer, the very man who enshrined the OBR's independence, now castigates it for refusing to applaud on cue. First he hands the OBR the conductor's baton, then he sulks when it won't play his melody. This is a kind of policy pantomime. The measures to make disability payment harder to access and to freeze incapacity benefits are austerity cloaked as empathy, cloaked as dignity. It's the old number with a new costume. The script has changed, the suffering remains. And one's tempted to ask, whose dignity is this? The dignity of the father of three who must explain to his children why they've lost their mobility car? The dignity of the cancer patient who must now fill in a 60-page form with the energy of a broken bulb? Or is it Starmer's own dignity that's being massaged? His desire to look tough but fair, serious but sympathetic, dancing through life. We must recall this line. Life's more painless when you're thoughtless. But policy making is not painless. It's not gliding across the ballroom. It's the trench work, the empathy, the humility, and above all, it's the listening. And what do we hear from the people these policies affect? That it's not dignity, but dread, and no one has listened. So where does this dance end? Not in Oz, but perhaps in the grey administrative corridors of Job Centre Plus. There the music dies. This isn't Wicked, this isn't Oz, this is Brazil. And the steps falter as you find yourself in the wrong film. Starmer may think he's choreographing a vision of responsibility, encouraging independence, shrinking the state, promoting work. But what he is in fact staging is something rather more jaded. A return to punitive paternalism, a sort of Victorian morality play that implies poverty is a personal failing, not a systemic wound. To the tune of Dancing Through Life, we are watching dignity drained from people who have no no dignity to spare. Let's not confuse Starmer's smooth delivery for conviction. Let's not confuse his theatrics for truth. Fierro may have danced his way into chaos, but at least he knew he was dancing, and at least he had skill. I'm afraid the problem one's got to face is that Starmer's skill is paper thin. And Starmer's tragedy is worse. He thinks he's conducting a symphony when in fact he's spinning on a hamster wheel. He's glittering, energetic, and ultimately going nowhere because he doesn't have the skill set to know quite what he's doing. He's being propelled. I don't know who's propelling Starmer. I don't know who's spinning that wheel. But Starmer is not controlled. Starmer is not in control, and Starmer may be grasping at dignity, but he's not promoting the dignity of the rest of the country. So dignity is a word that needs to be explored. But Starmer's approaching it from the wrong angle, and I'm slightly shocked by the performance he gave yesterday, and dismayed, not greatly surprised, but I am shocked. I'm shocked that he should be so mindless, so brainless, so unaware, so lacking in empathy. Maybe those are the words he's been told to say, but it's a shame. It's a shame.